Jema. So we continue with the collected works of the Mother, Volume 9. And as I said, it's a most important, one of the most important volumes. And its great importance is that immediately after the um, supramental manifestation. So we have, of course, 56 conversations, and then 57 and 58, they come together. After this, we do not have mother's conversation from, the playground. So they are also a set of last conversations which are taking place in the playground. So volume 10 is prayer, this thoughts and aphorism which people used to take to her and she would give her comments. And volume 11 is part of agenda. So that way this conversation has a great importance. Mother is packing up in this volume all the not just wisdom, love, like Mahasaraswati, detailed aspects. And of course, sometimes she is admonishing us because time is short and we need to wake up. So today we'll go slow on this, but today we'll read first something which often we miss out, and a very common bad habit, if we may say so. And it is, we tend to criticize people, but we'll come to that a little later. So here we have a story of initiation. This is very interesting. And Mother says that in olden times, before initiation, people were uh, tested whether one is ready or not. So here there is no such formal test. But she says, don't be deceived by appearances. The most commonplace events are, in a way, serving as a testing ground. Who is testing? She says very clearly, it is the forces in the world. The Divine Mother does not test anyone. Because she has got us here, it's in a way her responsibility to carry us. She knows us. But there is the law of evolution. So there are forces that test. And this is a very well-known yogic knowledge. So we'll see even in Vedas, Indra is testing, the Asuras are testing. Of course, they do it very dramatically. But basically, one is tested because to see whether one is ready or not ready. This readiness and this readiness starts from readiness for initiation into yoga is a very well-known thing in spiritual life. And she gives a story of initiation where basically a disciple is being tested for a very small thing. It's about obedience to his guru for something very small. He has to carry a trunk and he is just told not to open it. But he's curious and he opens. And he loses the chance of getting the true knowledge. So obedience, surrender, these are the things for which we are tested. Sincerity, patience, perseverance. And then once we have to cross from one barrier to another, tests are taking place. Meaning thereby just we are not tested once and for all. So there is a testing which takes place during initiation. And that's what we see when people come in who want to, let's say, join the ashram or who are keen for the yoga. So joining the ashram, you'll see that for some time, that's why people say that for 1 year, just stay put. Don't try to, understand things because it'll take time. Then try to understand the field. And slowly you will get into the field, you will get into the kind of understanding about the place, about the way things work, and then you are taken in. After being taken in also, at every time one has to cross a barrier, inner barrier. We are tested. And this test is not, it comes in a most unforeseen way. It's not like how many hours we can meditate. That's not testing. Testing is that suddenly somebody whom we hold as very dear suddenly says something which upsets us, or something comes to our notice, either about someone we respect or about the ashram or about anything, and we get disturbed about Sri Aurobindo and the mother. We read something and we just start having a doubt. So this test is very subtle. Or somebody suddenly meets with a physical injury, or there is a problem in the family for which one has to ultimately go. And it's a pity because I have seen people after years of staying suddenly going away and losing this opportunity. It's not that one should not look after the family and all, but this is a special endeavor, and one has to understand that once one is on the path, it's not a good idea to turn one's back towards it. One should move, however slowly. So, all these things we see in this beautiful story of initiation. It can be read, it's several places it's there, but of course, Mother's volumes is on page 67. And now we read this most important part, where the mother says that what is required. It's a very compelling, it's divine is pleading us literally. And he's pleading us not only for ourselves, but for the creation, but for the work. But before that, there is a aphorism of Sri Aurobindo. So aphorisms commentary had started from 1957 onwards. So she would read, give some commentary. Later on, people took those aphorisms to her and she would give a commentary. So that is the difference. So aphorism commentaries continued even when the mother stopped coming to playground. So there is a aphorism of Sri Aurobindo: wherever thou seest a great end, be sure of a great beginning. So if we see everything is collapsing, which we see in real life also. So we see the collapse, we do not see the next step which God has already planned for us. So when we see our life as it is collapsing. So actually there is something else, there is a trail towards which He wants us to move. He's turning us away from this and opening doors to that. So if we cling to what was, then there is sorrow and lamentation. If we turn toward that which is opening, then life grows beautiful. So a great end is a great beginning, preparation. Where a monstrous and painful destruction appalls thy mind, console it with the certainty of a large and great creation. God is there not only in the still small voice, but in the fire and in the whirlwind. And then he says, the greater the destruction, the freer the chances of creation. So with that, when we look at the world today, we'll begin to understand that because a new creation has to be made, if we look at the last 100 years, we see tremendous destruction. And it's going on, though at a much diminished pace. But till 1950 or 56, if I may put it as the watershed year, tremendous destruction. Revolutions, deaths, all kinds of things happening, miseries. And then we see that the world is beginning to shape anew. And therefore we should be patient. And further down he says, wherefore God hammers so fiercely at his world, tramples and kneads it like dough, casts it so often into the blood bath and the red hell heat of the furnace, because humanity in the mass is still a hard, crude and vile ore which will not otherwise be smelted and shaped. As is his material, so is his method. So, if we are crude in consciousness, the way of the divine is also very strong. If the time has come, it does not mean all crude people are lucky enough to receive the blow. So, there are very crude people whose time has not come. Even God's blow will shatter them, but they will not turn. So, they are still like that crude stuff who is continuing life. But when the time comes for this crude stuff to change, then we see that the hammering starts. Let it help to transmute itself into nobler and purer metal. His ways with it will be gentler and sweeter, much loftier and fairer its uses. So, if we change in our consciousness, if our consciousness becomes more sattvic, then the ways of the divine are also gentler. So basically, as is our consciousness, so are the ways of the divine with us. So this is something which is a beautiful thing to carry on, to carry with us always in life. And now comes the mother's commentary on this. So, what is the problem with the world, and what is the divine solution? Is there? The divine solution is the supramental transformation, and this is going to be, that is something certain. So, then what is the problem? Why the delay? Often we want things to happen urgently. Already it's how many years now? 56, so 50, 60, nearly 70, 75 years. And so, going to be 75, or if you take every 4 years as an anniversary, then it's different. But since the supramental manifestation, and yet world is changing, and yet at the same time it is still being hammered. And why is it so? So Mother says, after all, the whole problem is to know whether humanity has reached the state of pure gold, or whether it still needs to be tested in the crucible. One thing is evident: humanity has not become pure gold. That is visible and certain. It applies as much today. Far from it. We take the name of God, we take up yoga, we do 100 things, but we are very insincere. Actually, that doesn't require anything except looking at ourselves. Far from sincere. Not only very insincere, but very far. Even we do not acknowledge that we are insincere. Because the first step is mental honesty. We read, we sleep, we forget. But this acknowledgement itself is one big step. But something has happened in the world's history which allows us to hope that a selected few in humanity, because one can't expect, sincerity is such a rare quality, even aspiration, faith, that large masses will turn. Sri Aurobindo's yoga is not meant for the masses as of now. It is bound to impact the masses. I feel sometimes so strange. For example, I hear sometimes either somebody sends a link or a podcast, something, and you see the same old story. What is Jainism? What is the typical old age Hinduism? What is Buddhism? And you'll see millions of people listening to those stories. And it's moving in the same circle, at the end of which is, this world is illusion, or it's bad, which we know it, we don't require, and the best is to take vairagya and turn away. So who created this? Why it has come into existence? No, don't ask these questions. Same stories of rebirth, born, died, reborn, reward and punishment. People go to such absurd levels, and very people who, who are recognized big names, who give a very strange explanation. I'll just share one. It says that in the Mahabharata, when Draupadi's children have died, so she asked Sri Krishna. And Sri Krishna says, well, they died because you wanted to take revenge. So your revenge is fulfilled, because it was a just revenge. But now your revenge has its own repercussions. So it's a karma you created. So your children died. I have never seen a more absurd explanation. So what should Draupadi would have done? First of all, was it revenge or was it dharma? So what should one do? If you have been completely injustice, and with Pandavas what not happened? So what should they have done? They should have become a monk and gone away. This is exactly what Arjuna was saying. But Sri Krishna's teaching is not this. So this very weak kind of teaching, which is tinged with this idea that world is an illusion and the karmic law is a cycle of reward and punishment. And people swallow it, they are happy over it, they hear it, and there will be millions of people who will follow. But Mother and Sri Aurobindo are bringing something so new, so beautiful, such a hope, not only for an individual, but for the world. And what are they asking in return? Just a few men. They are not asking a huge mass following. Mass will change, but these few have to be the pioneers. And this is simple to understand from another standpoint. See, an arrow kills an enemy, or a lance, whatever way you look at it. Now, basically what happens? What kills? It is the point of the arrow. Point is very small, and even if you take the whole thing, it's very small. It's spearhead. It is that. What is the rest of the spear? It goes automatically inside. It just follows. It adds weight. But it's that, because that, why it is pointed like this? Because then you can target. So for targeting purposes, you have these few. Once the few enter and change, each one has several people connected with them, through like the lance, that part which you hold, or the the spear, the arrow. There is a part which makes it steady. There are feathers and all this to make it steady. But ultimately, it is that spearhead which does the work. And therefore, each of us, if we can become spearhead, then there are many, and through each other, there is a connectedness with the whole earth. So they will get influenced, they will change. Not that we have to go and influence anybody, but automatic process will be there, that if one man changes, sincerely he changes, then in his area of influence, automatically things will begin to change. And that's why when people come and say that, well, in my family or my known people, people have not turned. So, not that everybody should turn, but one has to also look inside, that have I really turned in the true sense of the word? Because if we do, we become an example, and that's what is important. So she is saying it's enough if there are few people, handful, selected, a small number of beings, perhaps are ready to be transformed into pure gold. And that they will be able to manifest strength without violence. So, what is the requirement? They should be strong people, not weak people, sentimental people, crying over small thing, complaining, grumbling. I have this, I don't have this, so and so has this. Not like that. Who break down easily. Strong people. But they are not violence. There is a difference between being strong and being violent. Strength is calm. Violence is weakness. That's how Mother has explained at one place. If you feel the need to be violent, either in speech or actions, then the vital is very weak, and we can understand it. See, who becomes violent very soon? Who becomes very angry very soon? Who becomes angry very soon? Who is not calm? So you have to just say something and there is a trigger. So they will be strong but without violence. Heroism without destruction. Why? Because they will destroy their own egos, and courage without catastrophe. So these are the people required, and these are the three qualities mainly. Strength means the ability to endure the passage, and heroism, the ability to conquer one's own ego, and courage, that courage which advances, but in its advance it does not destroy things and people around, but it advances steadily on the path. So this is what is required. And then she says, but in the very next paragraph, Sri Aurobindo gives the answer: if man could once consent to be spiritualized, if only the individual could consent to be spiritualized, could consent. That's all he's saying. The aphorism she's reading is, all would change if man could once consent to be spiritualized. But his nature, mental and vital and physical, is rebellious to the higher law. He loves his imperfection. And that explains something very interesting if we observe carefully. There will be thousands and thousands of people going to temples, and lakhs, millions. See, everybody now, Ram temple is there, and people, there is a horde, literally, crowd almost. How many have gone? Have you visited? This is a refrain. And many such places people will go. And they will hear Ram Katha and Bhagavad Katha and all these things. Why is it that somehow when they come to Sri Aurobindo, there are so many doubts, so many resistances? If you observe closely, you'll see it. Why is it so? The reason is because everywhere else you can just remain what you are. There is the God who will give your desires. But with Sri Aurobindo, are you ready to change? That's where the challenge lies. The Gita also asks you to change, but it doesn't put that compulsion on you. But with Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, if you are ready to change, then you have to say yes. Here also you have to say yes. This readiness to change is very difficult, because you begin to move out of your comfort zone. I want to remain the same old monkey. I want to come out of the Ram temple and continue with my array. Let's watch a movie in the theater, and let's not that movie seeing is bad, but I'm just saying that life should continue just as it is. Ramji is an additional factor. So Ram, Krishna, Christ, take anyone, they are add-ons. So, they are like a package. Oh, already I have support of politicians and ministers and all these people. But now I also have God's support for me to continue with my life as it is. But Sri Aurobindo and the mother want us to change as to become the first samples of a divinized humanity. That is difficult. So by doubting, it saves us. Saves matlab those ki, no, I don't know. Basically, I want to do the yoga, but I'm not sure whether it's there or not. So you see, by doubt, we we in a way justify our not moving in the direction of the intended change. So this is very common, and something in him asks for it, aspired. So people will still come, and all the rest refuses. Wants to continue to be what it is, the mixed ore which needs to be cast into the furnace. And then, when though you are a devotee, you are cast into the furnace, then we have added complaint. Mother didn't look after me. No, it's not like that, because you have accepted to change. So you should be ready to be purified, the purifying ordeal. And that is the sign of readiness, is that when these things happen, you take them as purifying ordeals. When blows come, you take them as, well, Mother Sri Aurobindo's grace. She says that every time you have an ordeal, if you take it as a grace, it will turn out to be so. It is a grace. It comes to show us that there are hidden spots which are weak inside us. And then they protect us. Through the ordeal, they take us. But instead, we want safety, comfort zones. We don't want to change. So this is the problem from the divine point of view. At the moment, we are at a decisive turning point in the history of the earth. This actually applies even today, because these moments come in cycles. So we can almost say that this is 57. So from 56 to 73 was one period, like an hour of God, or 72. Then we see the mother's conversations in 71 and 72, 73. We see this conversations where she looks at humanity and says it's not ready. The world is not ready. She sees it very clearly. She has put a lot of pressure on nations everywhere. But it's not that divine will give up. So she says it will need a lot more. Then again, there is a lull period. See, many things happen which are best not spoken about in India, outside, national level, international level. Then again, you see from 2014, there is a period which comes, when again it's like an hour of God, like a decisive turning point. It will continue till maybe 2028, 2030. Again, there will be a lull. Again, around 47 periods will come. So there are periods which come when we are at a decisive turning point. So she's saying both. In a general way, we are at the crossroads of civilization, and at the same time, there are unique moments which will come. And in many human beings, I have seen cycles of 12 years. I have seen that, after 12 years, a new impetus comes. So you take it or you leave it, depending on how you, if I may say so, performed in those 12 years. So some have different cycles, but there is a decisive turning point. From every side I am asked, what is going to happen? Everywhere there is anguish, expectation, fear. What is going to happen? There is only one reply: if only man could consent to be spiritualized. He's saying that, well, I have opened the sky. Are you ready to be spiritualized? The answer from millions of places is no. People are fine with religion, but they're not ready to be spiritualized. As I was saying, and it's a very sad reflection. And I'm talking of people who have written so much, who have read so much books, and at the end they go back to the same old story of karma and reward and punishment and moksha and anatmavad or atmavad, whichever way you look at it. But neither Sri Krishna's is heard, nor is Sri Aurobindo. Because these are the two who speak clearly, and of course Lord Ram, who shows the path of evolution. And Sri Aurobindo has brought it. It's Sri Krishna's work, which Sri Aurobindo is taking to the next level. But there will be devotees of Sri Krishna. There will be Garba, there will be Jhanki, there will be Janamashtami. You see, it's going to come. People will celebrate. They'll keep fast when Sri Krishna speaking as Sri Aurobindo. The Gita insisting on change. Really are a follower of Gita. It's not about shlokas. It's about the change. That is where the problem lies. And she says, if only man could consent to be spiritualized. And perhaps it would be enough if some individuals became pure gold. She knows that majority are not ready. Just a few. For this would be enough to change the course of events. We are faced with this necessity in a very urgent way. So you see, that's how the movement expanded. 1960, we see societies formed. Then we see that 68 Oroville. Because it's necessary that human beings should, this call should go. This beautiful message. And such a beautiful message that Sri Aurobindo brings. That things can change, world can change. That God means business with life and world and us. He is not a silent witness. People often ask, what is the use of soul? Naturally, because soul is regarded as something which is only carrying the impressions of the past to suffer or reward. What a nonsensical thing. Soul is nothing but like a 12th man in cricket. As like a substitute player. But when you read Sri Aurobindo, people ask this question, naturally they have read all about soul and transmigration. So they ask, what is the advantage of soul? So I tell them, you want to count? Start with what changes it will bring inside you. And then go on till the changes will cast even on your body. It's a dynamic element, powerful element. It completely changes it. It reorients your life. As a starter, it will take away completely the fear of death. In fact, all fear. First thing that you get with the soul realized experience is that fear goes away completely. And then what happens? You're always full of peace and joy. Momentarily, something may afflict you, momentarily, passingly. Like some, water, if on the surface, some waves. But very soon, soul bounces back. You'll always be full of faith and aspiration. Your mind will become lit and wide. So all this struggle of opinions, viewpoints, debates, discussions, your speech will become a rhythm of truth. Heart will always be full of love, sweetness, joy. And you don't need anything from anyone. No expectation in love, but always a giving. Now just imagine, life will become a luminous vehicle, force. And the body will automatically grow strong, full of vigor, healthy, because it will become open to the divine grace and its action. This is just in very short summary what the soul can do. But you see, people will hear talk about stories of transmigration and reward, and as if soul has no other business except going through this. But Sri Aurobindo and the mother, such a perspective, this courage, this heroism which the divine wants of us, why not use it to fight against one's own difficulties, one's own imperfections, one's own obscurities? Why we are, pointing out at others and what others are doing, not doing? How is it going to help? If anything, it's going to make things worse for me and worse for the person. Nobody likes if you tell him you're an idiot. He may be the idiot, but if he takes great offense. Nobody likes if you tell him you are a weak character. You think I am weak? You are twice weaker than me. So what is happening? It's multiplying. He may be weak or idiot, but let me look at my own weakness and my own idiocy and work upon it. So this is what she is saying. Why not heroically face the furnace of inner purification, so that it does not become necessary to pass once more through one of those terrible, gigantic destructions which plunge an entire civilization into darkness. As we read last time, she is contemplating pralaya or no pralaya. And she is not in favor of pralaya. We are reading that. But we have a role to play. But people are believing in pralaya. All that they say is, oh look, there is evil and naturally pralaya aane wala hai. Hare, with the divine presence being there, you can change the course of things. This is the problem before us. It is for each one to solve it in his own way. This evening I am answering the questions I have been asked, and my reply is that of Sri Aurobindo. If man could once consent to be spiritualized, and I add, time presses from the human point of view. So human point of view, 100, 200 years, it's From the divine point of view, it doesn't matter. If you ask Mother and Shiva, they say, no hurry. You have 1,000 years before us. If you ask nature, they'll say, yeah, it will happen now. Divine has sanctioned. I have also agreed. How long? Yeah, maybe million years. I love to play with human toys. But Mother and Shobindra's avatar is saying, human point of view, it's pressing. Truth or the abyss. So this is, I thought, very important. And then she speaks a little bit about, we have all these fights between religion and spirituality. Well, each religion is an effort towards something greater than man. It's true. Like philosophy is also an effort. Occultism is an effort. Spiritual experiences, they also open the door. Each is an effort to open a door. But what happens is religion gets stuck with the forms and loses the spirit. And that's why the mother did not want that there should be a new religion made out of Sri Aurobindo. Meaning thereby we have fixed forms that everybody should get up at this time. At this particular time everybody should go and pray this prayer, meditate in this way. The more we codify things and fix them in formulas, the more we make a religion out of it. The more you make dogmatic assertions, mother will be unhappy if you do this. Mother will be happy if you do this. It could be on vegetarianism, it could be anything. All the lesser we fix these details and the more we focus on aspiration, rejection, surrender, the more we'll be on the right track. So this is where, she is reminding us what is in supramental consciousness, all these religions will find ultimately their truth. But religious people are very difficult to turn. Actually, because they are so fixed with the formula. They can't live without formulas. So they want a formula even here. So they ask, give us some formula. Do's and don'ts. And if you tell a rule like, always behave as if the mother is looking at you because she is always present, they find it very difficult to believe. No, all that is okay. Tell us what we should do and what we shouldn't do. There is no formal dress. There is nothing by which you can outwardly recognize that a person is practicing this yoga or not practicing. She says religion exists almost exclusively in its forms. In cults, in a certain set of ideas, and it becomes great only through the spirituality of a few exceptional individuals. I have often felt, when I look at some of these Sikhism, Buddhism, with that zealot for, service of God and service of man, and this seva ka jo bhav and bhakti, very powerful. But it'll take up these ideas, but it just refuses to enlarge itself to enter into this wide vision that Mother and Sri Aurobindo are opening. Hinduism, which itself is so wide, but still it will be satisfied with Shiva and Kailash, or Vishnu Bhagwan and Shir Sagar. Now all these things are true. I'm not talking of Islam and Christianity, which, especially Islam. Christianity has compassion. Buddhism has compassion. So if you have compassion, what could be ultimate compassion? That life upon earth becomes divine. What else could be ultimate compassion? But we'll see it's so difficult. They are all seeking what the supramental consciousness can bring. And the experiment has failed thousands of years. But entering this difficult. So she says religion exists almost exclusively in its forms, its cults, in a certain set of ideas. Whereas true spiritual life, and above all what the supramental realization will be, is independent of every precise intellectual form, every limited form of life. The moment we say this is the meditation everybody should do, Mother has advised this, then you have turned it into a religion. If you say everybody should offer this flower, you have turned it into a religion. You can do it. It's good for you. It's your own ritual offering. It's wonderful. But to turn it into a general formula, that's where religion begins to form. A new religion would not only be useless but very harmful. It is a new life which must be created. It is a new consciousness which must be expressed. So, religion, what does it do? There is a time allotted to God, small or less, depending upon. But rest of the time, God is at your disposal. And very often, even during that time, why God? Because you have either fear of Him or you are asking for some favor. Fear of favor. Therefore, God. But rest of the time, you do as you wish to. Maybe there are some rules and regulations which you wish to follow. But spiritual life is independent of all this. It's a change of consciousness. It's entire life changes because your whole view of eating, sleeping, talking, having friends, everything changes. Work changes, relationship changes, goals change. So she says it's a new life and a new consciousness. It embraces all possibilities and manifestations and makes them the expression, the vehicle of a higher and more universal truth. See how close it is to the teaching of the Gita in this way. That the Gita also says that all actions, sarva karmani, everything must become an expression of truth. So this way she says that we have to change. And well, this we won't read, but she says, who is a true leader? I'll just read just few lines. Who is a true leader? Leader is not somebody who is appointed and occupies a chair. She says, be yourself what you would like them to be. Example. Give them the example of disinterestedness, patience, self-control, constant good humor, the overcoming of one's little personal dislikes, a sort of constant goodwill, an understanding of others' difficulties, and that equality of temper which makes children free from fear. For what makes children deceitful and untruthful and even cunning is the fear of being punished. The most important is good example. Two people that I spontaneously come to me when I think of good leader, one a teacher, another a manager. One who was the first registrar of the Center of Education, and that is Pavitrada. And the other, whom the mother said the first and last, only manager of the ashram, and that is Amrita. If you look at their life and see all the qualities you'll see, but they were not recognized that way as leaders. They were not in the limelight, pushing themselves forward. True leaders. So she says, to forget oneself is one of the most essential conditions for being a true leader. To have no selfish interest. To want nothing for oneself. To consider only the good of the group, of the whole, the totality that depends on one. So it's a beautiful, I think those who wish to be a leader or have that in them, or are leaders by design or default, they should put these words. It's in Collected Works of the Mother, volume 9, sorry. If you search leader, if you want to be a true leader, read it, put it, inscribe it, and try to follow it. So what a beautiful things about. And leader is also teacher. Teachers by default are leaders. And of course captains in our context. Then she speaks about something very interesting, that in this yoga, people don't understand because they see everybody is working and very busy. Everybody is very busy with department. There's going on. And people often wonder, kya ho raha hai? They want somebody to teach them meditation, to teach them some bhajans at least. Nothing is happening. Everybody is busy with work. And so they wonder. So the mother speaks of double perfection. Actually, Sri Aurobindo has spoken of it in Synthesis of Yoga. So there is the human perfection, there is the divine perfection. So human perfection is your capacities, whatever are given to you. It could be studying, teaching, painting, science, different accounting. You raise them, and as a human being, your moral aspects, ethical aspects, lift them to the highest possible. So for instance, what would be highest possibility of moral? Not just to show that you are a well-mannered person, Morality is not about please take the seat with all those hand rolling movements. Morality is if there is a crisis, don't run away and try to escape. Mother gives this example of the Paris fair, that all the gentlemen who were with hat and coat and the stick, the moment there was a fire in the charity bazaar, with the stick they were hitting others and pushing them to escape. But true morality is tested that time. That whether you really value others' life as you value yourself. And so on and so forth. Plenty of examples. So in everything there is a human perfection. And there is beyond it a state of divine perfection. We have Rama as an acme of human perfection. But Krishna breaks the mold and reveals what divine perfection is. Now when you combine the two, you have Sri Aurobindo, the integral perfection. A way of understanding it from our context. Why? Because it's important. Sometimes we feel, we need not, we are Sri Aurobindo's devotees, we can be ill-mannered. What does it matter? We are aspiring for something very great. So Mother speaks of these two perfection, higher and the lower. The higher perfection is the spiritual perfection. So all the spiritual possibilities, the forms of union and the results, integral union with the divine, identification with the divine, freedom from all the limitations of the lower world. This is the spiritual perfection, the perfection that comes from yoga. Quite independent of the body and the physical world. And the lower perfection is to be able to make the human being, in his present form and in the body, in his relation with all terrestrial things, do the utmost he can. This is the case of all great men of genius, artistic genius, literary genius, genius in organization, the great rulers, those who have carried physical capacities to their maximum perfection, human development. I'll give an example. It's like somebody wanted to take care of animals. Young girl, must be in 21, 22. She went and met some sadhak and she expressed, I love animals. He said, no, you have to love only God. Loving animals is all is moha. Whereas Mother says that she loves animals. Mahalakshmi is very fond of animals. So taking care of people is to be discarded. Why? Because we are all pursuers of supramental path. It doesn't work like that. You have to develop even the human in us to its utmost. I remember a story in a little funny way that in the playground there was one lady with a child. So after the meditation she was finding difficult to get up. So everybody is rushing to have, darshan of, and everything. And Kavita just lent her a hand. After getting up, she smiles and says, "Beta, aap ashram se to nahi ho." Because unfortunately, there is this that they are just interested in now my dining room time. So you get up, you rush. You don't look left, you don't look right. What have you got to do with, ordinary mortals who are coming from worldly people? This is not whatever it has been. When you look at Mother, the way she gave time, people from outside came and joined the group. There were no outsiders like that. Whoever came was part of the mothers, and that we'll read here, but little later in this very volume. So these human qualities, tenderness, affection, they come from the psychic. So, as if they have no role at all, yes, just straight away aspirant for the supramental perfection. It won't do. So, Sri Aurobindo speaks of double perfection. Otherwise, you will have lovely experiences inside, but nothing to manifest. You may have the most powerful experiences, but nothing you are capable of expressing. So, this world is about manifesting the divine. So, what is the use of hearing the Nad Brahman, but when you speak to people, you are shouting as if, with your voice you are going to destroy, like Shiva Tanda, voice is like that. Rudra. So that's not. So she describes in great detail even about the body, how you should be conscious. When you walk, how you should be conscious. And she speaks about all these things, that how you should be organized. When you organize things, you shouldn't be slipshod in every sphere. And She says that's why Sri Aurobindo used to repeat and has always said, you must work from both ends, not let go of one for the other. And certainly, if you want to have a divine consciousness, you must not give up spiritual aspirations. But if you want to become an integral divine being on earth, take good care not to let go of the other end. Other end is this mind, life, body, heart. And make your body the best possible instrument. It is a disease of the ordinary human intellect which comes, moreover, from separation, division, to make a thing always either this or that. So either you are in the ashram, or if you go out, you are outside the ashram. It doesn't work as simple as that. There is a truth in it, each of them. But you have to learn to integrate that life in the world and life beyond. Beyond is, the divine is the first and foremost, most important. But when you realize him, and to the extent one realizes, because there is no end to it, so there should be an instrument through which he can express and manifest himself. If it is undeveloped, underdeveloped, there are people who say that why should I study? Ultimately, divine realization is the goal. Somebody had told me when I had come here, I wanted to study history or something. Then I was told by someone XYZ, what is the point? You have to realize the divine. He says, I left everything and came. That's not the approach and attitude of a Sri Aurobindo's devotee. He develops the instrument fully and places them at the disposal. Imagine if Arjun told Krishna, use me, but basically, you know what? I have dropped my bow and arrow practice last 13 years in Banvas. On the contrary, Shri Krishna tells him, get celestial weapons. Because he knew the war is coming and he has to be his instrument. That's why the Gita is given to Arjun and not to anyone and everyone. So he says, it is an impoverishment. One must know how to take up everything, combine everything, synthesize everything, and then one has an integral realization. So it's so beautiful. And fasting and spiritual progress, fear and illness, all this we can skip, and we can come to very important topic, which is not a topic. It's something which the mother said in one of her playground meditation. Normally she would come in the playground and she would speak. She would ask questions and she would speak. But some days she would not speak. She would just say something and she would want us to meditate. And so I think it's so powerful, so important, because we will see notices put up in the ashram on the side. It's permanently there. I don't know how much people read or follow. That if you do not have anything pleasant to speak about anything or anyone in the ashram, remain silent. Because this is faithfulness to the divine work. So this habit of criticizing. So she says, we said that we are going to prepare ourselves methodically for the sadhana. There is one point on which I have already insisted enough, but unfortunately without much result among you all. And I thought that perhaps it would be good to begin with that to prepare you for a future sadhana. So the subject of our meditation this evening will be this: on the harm done by incontinence of speech. We speak harsh words, we speak abusive words, and we speak all kinds of ill will, throw ill will, things which can harm others. And we say we are doing mother's work. If we are throwing ill will, that means mother is working in them also. How much ever, whatever it be. So she reminds us, very often I have told you that every word spoken uselessly is dangerous chatter. But here the situation has reached the very limit. You can imagine the ashram in 1957. For people who say about, yes, the most beautiful period, and yet you see the darkness and the resistance coming up. And she's saying in 57 it has reached the very limit. What is the limit? There are things which have been said over and over again, repeated by all those who have tried to perfect humanity, unfortunately without much result. It is a question of malicious gossip. So it's not about criticism which is passing, but malicious gossip. With ill will you speak ill of others. You want to pull down someone because you're jealous, or because you are ambitious, or because of you don't like a person. Therefore, you speak ill. And you not only speak ill, you add to it juicy things, gossip. Gossip is things which are either not true or maybe some grain of truth which are coating in black and all kinds of paint and presenting it. So, malicious gossip. That's why it's so important when people say either move away from there or sometimes just ask, are you sure? Did it happen exactly like this? Did he say exactly this? So then you will say, no, I mean, he meant. I say, then if he meant, then that is not important. How do you know what a person meant? You say, no, he said with this intention. So I ask, how do you know the intention? This my way. There could be many ways. How do you know his intention? No, he had that gesture, that smile. Said, don't imagine things. Because you are putting in his gestures your own meaning. How do you know? So, malicious gossip, of slander, of that pleasure taken in speaking ill of others. Anyone who indulges in this kind of incontinence debases his consciousness. When you are just busy slandering about others, gossiping about others maliciously, and after that, actually it can not only leave a bad taste just listening to these things, it can actually make one sick. So one should be so careful. It actually debases the consciousness. A few minutes of this atmosphere when people are just talking very ill and with that kind of malicious intention. So she says, anyone who indulges in this kind of incontinence debases his consciousness. And when to this incontinence is added the habit of vulgar quarreling, you don't stop there. You begin to quarrel in a vulgar way, crude way, abuse, hit, so many things which we expressed in coarse language. Then that amounts to suicide. Spiritual suicide within oneself. As simple as that. So powerful. And use vulgar language, foul language, quarrel with others, slander, malicious gossip. Because see, she's speaking here of coarse language, but it's just a few steps. You have taken the route. Maybe it will end up with. So, best is not to observe in others, that's the best. Except what concerns you. And there also don't do character judgments, assassination. Even if you have observed, try to do a course correction, look at there are some good qualities, all that try to do. Everybody has good qualities. If not, be indifferent, it doesn't concern me. How am I concerned? It's between that person and the Divine Mother. What he or she is doing, not doing. And still, if you begin to speak about him, be careful. Become conscious. Red flag, red alert, and stop it soon. Don't make it a way of life habit. And if it has happened, then see, now you have taken a turn. Now, if it stops here, it's okay. But the moment you begin to quarrel with the person and start speaking in, whenever there is quarrel, then there is no control over speech, anger. And then words can come out which not only hurt, injure. See, that's the sad part. I can tell you, slapping a person is sometimes better than speaking a word which hurts you. Because if you have slapped and you feel very sad, you can caress. But you have spoken a word which has hurt and injured. It's very difficult. It's an arrow which has gone who knows where. After that you keep saying good things. But you can't pluck it out. It's very, very difficult. And if to that one adds coarse language, crude language, foul language, vulgar language, quarreling with that, then you have committed spiritual suicide. So this is what Mother wants us to contemplate upon and meditate upon. This is very powerful. And I think we should just stop with this today. Jai Ma.